Oh my God.
Detroit, stand up. You've waited for this. One Proud Nation, stand up. You've waited for this.
No block, no rock. And that is the message that offensive coordinator Ben Johnson had for the then second-year wide receiver, Jameson Williams, during an offensive meeting in 2023. And that message, honestly, was received loud and clear by Williams, who threw a terrific block for David Montgomery to spring him for a 75-yard touchdown versus the Chargers last season. And I think you can all remember that very specific play. But this didn't begin in 2023. No, this goes all the way back to the beginning. The 2021 DeAndre Swift had only one rush for 50 yards or more. The lack of blocking was evident. So much so that Dan Campbell wanted to know why. And during the offseason, he dove deep into what was missing. Why was it missing? Why are we not having success? And he had this quote back in 2022. I did a study at the end of the year, and it was always two things: the running back and the receivers blocking downfield. Those were the two things that were the common denominator in having those explosive runs. I've been around guys that are pretty good receivers, but man, they get after it in the run game, and it changes the attitude of your team. It just does, because those offensive linemen, man, they appreciate that, and the defense appreciates it. There's a toughness to it. Now, in 2022, Detroit's entire offensive unit, including its key offensive weapons, made it a point, an emphasis, to block for its teammates. Swift in the running game started off to a very quick beginning to the season, able to average over 7 yards per attempt, with the team having 3 runs for over 50 yards in the first 2 games. Then for an offense to score 30 or more points in consecutive games in 2022, all of the moving parts on a play have to really be in sync, and the receivers must be willing to block downfield for their teammates, and they did. Dan was quoted as saying again, "It's an emphasis for us, and they can take ownership in it. It's a rite of passage here. But I credit Amon-Ra St. Brown," calls him Saint, and Khalif Raymond, who he calls Leaf, for that too. I think that they set the tone in that room with that, and it's expected. All those guys, and they've all bought in. I mean, Josh Reynolds is blocking guys. DJ Chark is blocking guys. I mean, they're all doing it. So it's a good room. I think it can be taught, but I think it also, it's like, to an extent, we've got the right guys, if that makes sense. It does make perfect sense. You bring in the right guys with the right attitude and the right tenacity that understand that maybe the game is bigger than just them, and they are going to go fight and block for their teammates so that everybody can have an opportunity and hopefully the ultimate goal to win the game. The offense was really flowing. And following Detroit's 36-27 victory over the Commanders in 2022, Goff also expressed just how much emphasis blocking was and how much it was at the forefront for that season and how it had paid dividends already in this quote. So he says, "It's been a point of emphasis for us for sure. Through training camp, from Ben Johnson, is blocking downfield after the catch, blocking downfield, continuing the play, making you keep going." And that right there, like you said, with TJ Hawkinson on DeAndre Swift's, that caused the touchdown. And they were talking about the touchdown in that game where Hawkinson freed Swift. And then like Quintez Cephas, he caused the 50-yarder, whatever yard gain it was for Amon-Ra St. Brown there. So I think you see it work, and you see, okay, the coaches are telling me something that actually makes sense, and it's working. It really multiplies itself, and you gain that momentum of trusting it and believing in it, and it really becomes who you are. I fully believe that. The more that they train it, the more that they teach it, the more that they guide it and just hammer it, it becomes muscle memory. It becomes who you are. It becomes the player that you are. Now we'll fast forward to last season, 2023. The Lions almost had 2 running backs go for 1,000 yards each for the first time ever. And had they both, stayed healthy the entire season, there is no doubt that Jahmyr Gibbs would have eclipsed that mark with Montgomery. The success of the running game was in large part due to the receiver's willingness to block downfield. It was on display many times throughout the season, and a big reason why the team's mentality, toughness, and grinded out attitude has been so refreshing to watch. And quite honestly, it's been a big part as to why this team is winning. They are winning as a complete team. And being teammates, obviously, in football, the ultimate game. Chris Spielman, again, was on the clock, you should say, on a podcast last night, the First Take podcast, and he also mentioned this same exact thing where he said about St. Brown, he said he's tough. He's probably one of the top 10 blocking wide receivers in the league. And when you play in this offense, you know we're inserting those wide receivers in between the guard and tackle and in between the tackle and the tight end. And we're asking them to crack on defensive ends. And our guys know if you don't block, you're not getting the ball. It's just a rule around here. And he's been able to do that. And he's just a good football player. In closing here, leading by example and being part of the hardest working football player in the room is expected in Detroit. And that is the message that these guys are buying into, and it's working. Whatever Dan Campbell and his coaching staff are doing, they are certainly earning the respect of the players to lay it all out on the field each and every play. And that is a big reason why the early success after a complete rebuild has been realized.
One final time, Jared. One final time. Moves in behind center. Takes the snap. Takes the knee. This game is over.